Before we begin, it's essential to understand that this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as financial advice or an encouragement to gamble. The content presented here explores the technology and mathematics behind online gaming systems. All forms of gambling carry significant risk, and the outcomes are based on chance. Past performance or the experiences of others are not indicative of your own potential results. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, help is available. Please contact the National Council on Problem Gambling's confidential 24-hour helpline. There's a number, a single number, that defines the entire $100 billion online casino industry. It's not the size of the jackpots. It's not the number of players. It's 71%. That's the average portion of a casino's revenue that comes from one single source: the slot machine. Not poker, not blackjack, not the high roller baccarat tables. It's the humble, flashing, spinning slot machine. And the question is, why? What is it about these digital one-armed bandits that makes them the undisputed king of the casino floor and the online world? You've probably felt it yourself. You sit down, you place a bet, you hit spin. The reels blur into a cascade of color and sound. They start to slow into, the first two symbols lock in. They're perfect. It's the jackpot symbol. All you need is one more. The third reel seems to hang in the air for an eternity, teasing you before it clicks into place. Just one position off. A near miss. Your heart was pounding. For a split second you thought you had it. So you hit spin again. And again. You feel like you're getting close, that the machine is heating up, that you're due for a win. But what if I told you that every single one of those feelings, the anticipation, the excitement, the frustration of the near miss, isn't just a byproduct of the game? What if I told you they are the product itself? This isn't a video about betting strategies or how to find a loose machine. This is a deep dive into the code. We are pulling back the digital curtain to expose the sophisticated, mind-bending technology that powers every online slot machine on the planet. We're going to dissect the algorithms, understand the core mathematics, and reveal how developers can build a game that is, at the same time, completely random and yet perfectly predictable. By the time this is over, you will understand the ghost in the machine. You will know what the random number generator truly is, what return to player percentage actually means for your money, and how engineers manipulate a concept called volatility to create a precise emotional roller coaster. You will never look at a spin button the same way again. To understand it all, we have to start with the heart of the machine, its digital soul. It's a concept you've probably heard of, but almost certainly don't understand in this context. It's called the RNG, the random number generator. Now, when you hear random, you might think of flipping a coin or rolling dice. But the RNG inside a slot machine is something else entirely. It's a microprocessor, a tiny computer brain that is in a state of constant, chaotic motion. It isn't waiting for you to do anything. Right now, as you're watching this, every online slot machine in the world is running its RNG. It's spitting out numbers. Not just a few numbers. It's generating a continuous stream of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of completely random numbers every single second. Each of those numbers corresponds to a specific outcome on the reels. This is the first fundamental secret. When you hit the spin button, the game doesn't start to decide your fate. It doesn't roll some digital dice. The game does something much simpler and much faster. It just reaches out and plucks the exact number the RNG was generating at the precise millisecond your finger tapped the screen. That's it. The entire result of your spin, whether it's a huge jackpot or a total loss, is determined in an instant, before the reels even begin to move. The spinning, the sounds, the dramatic pauses, all of that is a carefully crafted animation. It's a user interface designed to make the experience entertaining. The actual event was over before it even looked like it began. This single fact demolishes almost every myth about slot machines. That feeling that a machine is hot or cold. It's a psychological illusion. The RNG has no memory. It doesn't know that the last 10 spins were losers. It doesn't know that someone just hit a jackpot. Each spin is a completely independent, isolated event. Think of it like flipping a coin. If you get heads 10 times in a row, what are the odds of the 11th flip being heads? Still 50-50. The coin doesn't remember the previous flips. The RNG is the same, just infinitely more complex. The idea that you are due for a win is one of the most powerful and misleading feelings in all of gambling. The machine doesn't know you and it doesn't care. It just serves up the number for that millisecond over and over again. And what about those players who rapidly tap the screen to stop the reels early, thinking they can control the outcome? It's another illusion. The outcome was already locked in. Stopping the reels just makes you see the predetermined result faster. You're not influencing anything. You're just skipping the animation. So this leads to the next logical and far more important question. If the outcome of every spin is truly genuinely random, then how can a casino exist? How can they build a business model on pure chance? How do they guarantee with near mathematical certainty that they will make a profit over time? The answer is that the randomness itself is controlled. It operates within a rigid mathematical framework. The secret isn't in the RNG. It's in the blueprint that the RNG uses to translate those random numbers into symbols on your screen. In the industry, this blueprint has a name. It's called the PAR sheet. The PAR sheet, which stands for Probability and Accounting Report, is the Bible for a specific slot game. It's a master document, a spreadsheet created by the game's mathematicians, that details every single aspect of the game's design. It lists every symbol on the reels. It details every possible winning combination. And most importantly, it assigns a specific probability to every single outcome. The PAR sheet might say that a line of 3 cherry symbols will appear, on average, once every 75 spins and pay out 10 times your bet. It might also say that the grand jackpot combination will appear, on average, once every 40 million spins. This is where the magic happens. The game developers don't just throw symbols onto virtual reels. They carefully weight them. On a physical slot machine from the old days, each symbol might have an equal chance of landing. But in the digital world, that's not true. The jackpot symbol might only be programmed to appear on the first reel once every 100 spins, but on the third reel, it might be programmed to appear only once every 1,000 spins. This is how they can create those agonizing near misses. The PAR sheet is programmed to have the jackpot symbols appear frequently on the first 2 reels, building excitement, but become incredibly rare on the final reel that would trigger the big payout. That feeling of being so close isn't a coincidence. It's a direct result of mathematical design specified in the PAR sheet. So let's put it all together. The random number generator is running constantly, creating a sea of raw, unpredictable numbers. You hit spin. The game instantly grabs one of those numbers. It then looks at the PAR sheet, which acts as a translator. The PAR sheet says, okay, this number corresponds to this specific combination of symbols on the reels. The game then displays that result to you through an entertaining animation. The randomness of the RNG ensures that the game is fair and unpredictable on a spin-by-spin basis. But the mathematics of the PAR sheet ensures that, over millions of spins, the casino will achieve a very specific, predetermined statistical outcome. This PAR sheet is the game's DNA. It dictates everything. It's how developers can create a game that feels wildly unpredictable and chaotic in the short term, yet is mathematically certain to perform in a specific way over the long term. And it's how they control the 2 most important levers that define the player's experience and the casino's profit: the game's volatility and its return to player percentage. These 2 numbers, born from the data in the PAR sheet, are the real secret behind the entire industry, dictating whether a game pays out small wins frequently or massive wins incredibly rarely, and exactly how much of every dollar wagered the machine is designed to keep. So let's pull back that digital curtain. At the very heart of every single online slot machine, from the simplest 3-reel classic to the most complex video slot with cascading reels and bonus rounds, is a single tireless engine. It's called the random number generator, or RNG. Now, the term random gets thrown around a lot, but in this context it has a very specific, almost sacred meaning. This isn't the kind of random like pulling a name out of a hat. This is a level of computational randomness so complex and so fast that it's, for all practical purposes, completely unpredictable. Think of the RNG as a tiny hyperactive brain inside the game server, doing one thing and one thing only, constantly generating numbers. We're talking hundreds of millions or even billions of numbers every single second. It never stops. Whether you're playing the game, someone else is playing the game, or no one is playing the game at all, the RNG is cycling through this colossal sea of numbers. It has no memory of what came before. Doesn't know you just won. It doesn't know you've lost 100 spins in a row. It doesn't know you're due for a win because in the world of the RNG, the concept of being due simply doesn't exist. Each spin is a completely independent, isolated event, a snapshot of a number at a specific millisecond in time. This single fact dismantles the most common myths about slot machines. There are no hot or cold streaks in the machine's programming. The game can't be warmed up. The outcome of your last spin has absolutely zero influence on the outcome of your next spin. It's just math. Pure, cold, lightning-fast math. So, if the game is just a number generator, where do the symbols, the cherries, the sevens, the dragons come from? This is the first layer of genius in modern slot design. The spinning reels you see on your screen are, in a way, an illusion. They are a fun, graphical representation of a mathematical event that has already happened. Here's how it works. The instant, and I mean the very microsecond, you hit that spin button, the game software reaches out to the RNG and grabs the very next number in the sequence for each reel. If it's a 5-reel slot, it grabs 5 numbers. These numbers are the final answer. The outcome is already decided before the reels even begin to move on your screen. The game then takes these numbers and cross-references them with the par sheets map. This map is what we call the virtual reel. And this is a concept that is absolutely critical to understand. The 20 or 30 symbols you might see flicker past on a single reel on your screen are not the real reel. The real reel, the virtual one, is a massive strip of data that can have hundreds, or even thousands of potential stops. Imagine a physical reel from an old-school slot machine. It's a small hoop with maybe 22 symbols on it. Now, imagine a digital version of that reel. But instead of being a small hoop, it's a strip of code as tall as the Empire State Building. It doesn't have 22 stops. It might have 1,024, or 4,096, or even more. Each of those thousands of stops is assigned a number. And on that giant virtual strip, each stop is linked to a symbol. So when you hit spin, the RNG provides a number. Let's say the number is 852. The game software looks at the virtual reel for reel 1, scrolls down to position 852, and sees what symbol is there. Maybe it's a cherry. It then does the same for the other 4 reels, each with its own random number and its own massive virtual reel. The outcome is now locked in cherry dragon, ace wild cherry. The game knows exactly where each reel is going to stop. The rest, the spinning animation, the dramatic sound effects, the near misses, that's all just theater. It's the user interface designed to make the mathematical process entertaining. The spinning is just for show. This is what allows for such incredible odds. If you only had 22 stops on each of 5 physical reels, the total number of combinations would be fairly limited. You could calculate the odds of hitting the jackpot pretty easily. But with virtual reels that have, say, 2,048 stops each, the math explodes. The total number of possible combinations on a 5-reel slot becomes 2,048 to the power of 5. That's a number in the quadrillions. It's over 35 quadrillion to be exact. This is how game designers can offer life-changing jackpots while maintaining precise mathematical control over the game's payout percentage. The jackpot symbol might only appear once on that entire virtual reel of 2,048 stops. And this brings us to the next crucial layer, weighting. The symbols on the virtual reel are not distributed evenly. This isn't like a deck of cards where you have an equal chance of drawing any card. Game designers use the virtual reels to carefully control the frequency of each symbol. Going back to our virtual reel with 2,048 stops, the top jackpot symbol might only occupy one single stop. Just one. But a low-paying symbol, like the number 10 or a cherry, might be programmed to appear on 100 different stops scattered throughout that virtual reel. This means you are, by design, 100 times more likely to land on a 10 than you are to land on the jackpot symbol for that reel. This weighting is the absolute key to everything. It's how designers fine-tune the player experience. By controlling how many times each symbol appears on the virtual reels, they can dictate the game's volatility. They can create a game that pays out lots of small wins very frequently by loading up the virtual reels with low-paying symbols. Or they can create a game that pays out very rarely, but when it does, it pays out big by making the high-paying symbols incredibly scarce. This also explains the psychology of the near miss. You know the feeling. 2 jackpot symbols land on the pay line, and the third one stops just one position above or below. Feels like you were so close. But were you really? Remember, the outcome is determined by the random number. If the jackpot symbol is at position 500 on the virtual reel, and the RNG generated the number 501, you weren't one stop away. In the game's math, you were just as close as if the RNG had generated the number 2000. You missed. But the game's software knows that showing you the jackpot symbol just out of reach is far more engaging than showing you a random fruit symbol. Because the visual display is separate from the mathematical outcome, the designers can program the visual reels to show near-miss scenarios for jackpots much more frequently than they would occur in a truly random visual spin. This isn't cheating. The underlying math from the RNG is still fair and untouched. But the presentation of the loss is engineered to create a feeling of anticipation and to encourage another spin. It's a powerful psychological tool. built directly on top of the separation between the RNG's result and the graphical display. So we have the RNG, this unstoppable engine of pure randomness. We have the virtual reels, these colossal digital strips that map numbers to symbols. And we have weighting, the deliberate and careful placement of those symbols to control the odds. These three elements form the fundamental trinity of every online slot machine. They work in perfect harmony to ensure every single spin is independent. The long-term payout is predictable for the operator, and the potential for a massive win, however remote, is always present. But understanding this core engine is just the beginning. Knowing how it works allows us to now explore why it's designed in so many different ways. Why do some games feel streaky, while others just drain your balance slowly? How do bonus rounds and free spins actually fit into this mathematical model? Are they truly free? Or is their cost baked into the math of the main game? That is where we start to see the true artistry and the complex financial modeling that separates one game from another. To answer that, we have to pull back the curtain on one of the most fundamental concepts in slot design, feature costing. The short answer is no, free spins are not truly free in the way we think of the word. Their statistical cost is meticulously calculated and woven into the very fabric of the game's mathematical model. Think of a game's total return to player, or RTP, as a budget. Let's say a game has a 96% RTP. That means over an immense number of spins, the game is designed to pay back 96 cents for every dollar wagered. But the crucial part is how that 96-cent budget is spent. It's not distributed evenly across every single spin. Instead, the game designer splits that 96% RTP into different pots. The largest pot is for the base game, the regular spins you make while waiting for a feature. The other, often smaller but much more potent pot, is reserved for the bonus features, like the free spins round. So, the base game on its own might not have a 96% RTP at all. Its RTP might be something much lower, say 65%. The remaining 31% of the total RTP is locked away, waiting to be paid out exclusively within that free spins bonus round. This is a critical concept to grasp. It's the reason why the base game can often feel like a slow, steady grind, with small, insignificant wins that don't even cover your initial bet. It's because mathematically it's designed to be that way. It's underpaying you, holding a significant portion of its budget in reserve for that explosive, high-potential bonus round. The game is essentially making you pay for your future free spins with every single wager you place in the base game. Each spin is a microtransaction, contributing to the statistical pool of money that will eventually fund those high payout bonus features. This is where the game's volatility comes roaring back into the picture. The way a developer divides that RTP budget is a direct reflection of the game's volatility. A low volatility game might allocate its 96% RTP something like this: 80% for the base game and 16% for the bonus feature. This means the base game will provide more frequent, smaller wins, keeping your balance more stable. The bonus feature will trigger more often, but the potential payouts will be more modest. It's a smoother, less bumpy ride. Now, consider a high volatility game. It might take that same 96% RTP and budget it completely differently, maybe 55% for the base game and a whopping 41% for the bonus feature. In this scenario, the base game will feel brutal. It will pay out very little very infrequently. You'll experience long stretches of non-winning spins. But that 41% allocated to the bonus is a massive concentration of the game's payout potential. It means that when the free spins feature finally does trigger, it has the mathematical capacity to deliver truly enormous wins. The game has been saving up almost half of its total payout budget for these rare, explosive moments. So when players talk about a game being hot or cold, what they are often experiencing is the programmed volatility and the specific RTP allocation between the base game and its features. But how does the game decide when to unlock that feature budget? This isn't random luck. It's carefully controlled probability. The trigger is typically landing 3 or more special scatter symbols anywhere on the reels. The random number generator determines the outcome of the spin, and if that outcome includes the required scatters, the feature is initiated. However, the designers have precise control over the frequency of this event. They do this by adjusting how many scatter symbols appear on each individual reel strip. For instance, the virtual reel strips for reels 1 and 2 might have plenty of scatter symbols, making it common to land 2 of them. This builds incredible anticipation. You see those first 2 scatters land, the music swells, the other reels slow down. It's a masterclass in psychological tension. But the real strip for that final reel, say reel 5, might have only 1 or 2 scatter symbols on its entire length of thousands of stops. This makes landing that crucial third scatter a much rarer event, and its frequency is a number that the game's mathematician has calculated down to the decimal point to ensure the bonus triggers at a rate that perfectly aligns with the game's overall RTP budget. Once you're in, a whole new world of math takes over. And this is a secret that many players don't realize. During the free spins round, you are very often playing on a completely different set of virtual reels. The reels used in the base game are swapped out for a special bonus set of reels. These bonus reels are designed to be much richer. They might have way more of the high-paying symbols or more stacks of wild symbols. Sometimes the low-paying symbols like the 10, Jack, and Queen are removed entirely. This is how the game can afford to pay out that huge chunk of RTP it has been holding in reserve. By dramatically increasing the probability of hitting high-value winning combinations, the game ensures that the bonus round lives up to its high potential promise. It's not that the game suddenly becomes generous, it's that you finally gained access to the set of reels where the big money was allocated all along. And what about extra features within the feature, like win multipliers or the chance to re-trigger for more spins? These are not happy accidents, they are additional layers in the mathematical onion. If a bonus round offers a 3x multiplier on all wins, the math model accounts for this from the start. The richer bonus reels might be slightly less rich than in a game without a multiplier, because the designer knows every win will be tripled. The average payout per spin is calculated with that multiplier already factored in. Similarly, the chance to land 3 more scatters during the bonus to re-trigger more free spins is a calculated probability. The potential payout from those additional spins is part of the 31%, or whatever the figure is, that was budgeted for the bonus feature in the first place. Every single element, every multiplier, every extra wild, every re-trigger, is a variable in a complex equation that must, over the long run, resolve back to the game's advertised RTP. Let's imagine a hypothetical game to make this crystal clear. Let's call it Cosmic Cash. It has a 96% RTP. The designers decide to make it a medium volatility game and split the RTP budget as follows: 70% for the base game, and 26% for the free spins bonus. This means that for every $1 million wagered on Cosmic Cash, the math dictates that on average, $700,000 will be paid back to players through base game line hits, and $260,000 will be paid back through wins accumulated inside the free spins bonus. This is why you can have a session where you spend $50 slowly dwindling down to $10, and then you hit the free spins and walk away with a $150 win. Your personal experience was a huge net gain, but for the casino's overall model, it was just one event that helped the game balance its 70-26 budget. Your big win was offset by thousands of other spins from other players that didn't trigger the feature, funding the very payout you received. The brilliance of this design from a psychological standpoint is the power of the word free. Once those spins are triggered, the feeling of risk is removed. You're no longer spending your own balance to spin the reels. Each spin feels like a gift, a no-cost chance at a jackpot. This state of playing with house money is incredibly engaging. It can extend playing time and create the most memorable moments of the entire experience. It's a powerful psychological reward system built on a foundation of cold, hard, and perfectly balanced mathematics. The free spin is the carrot, and the cost is baked into every single paid spin that came before it. It's a closed loop, an elegant and self-funding economic model disguised as a game of chance. But free spins are just one type of bonus. The creativity of game developers has led to a huge variety of other features. What about the pick-and-click bonuses, where you select from a series of hidden objects to reveal cash prizes? Or the cascading reel mechanics, where winning symbols vanish and new ones fall into their place, creating the potential for chain reactions of wins from a single spin? How is the cost for those features budgeted? And how does the underlying technology ensure their outcomes are both random and mathematically sound? That's where we go next. The technology orchestrating these complex features is a masterclass in mathematical budgeting and conditional programming, all built upon the foundation of the random number generator. Let's first dissect the cascading reels, a feature known by many names: tumbling reels, avalanches, or simply reactions. When you hit a winning combination, those symbols don't just pay out and sit there, they vanish. The symbols above them fall into the empty spaces, and new symbols drop in from the top to fill the gaps. If this new arrangement creates another win, the process repeats. So the critical question is each cascade a new independent spin? Not exactly. From a technological standpoint, the entire potential sequence of a spin, including all possible cascades, is determined in the instant you press the button. The initial number generated by the RNG doesn't just correspond to the first set of symbols you see. It corresponds to a vast, pre-calculated outcome. Think of it like a single domino that, when pushed, sets off a specific predetermined chain reaction. The game's math model has already mapped out what will happen if symbol A, B, and C land on the first pay line. It knows that they will disappear, that symbols D and F will drop down, and that new symbols G, H, and I will fall from the top. It also knows if that next arrangement is a winning one, and what will happen after that. The RNG's single output is the key that unlocks one specific path out of trillions of possibilities. The cascading animation you see on screen is simply the visual representation of that predetermined result playing out. This is far more efficient than having the server make a new RNG call for every single cascade. A single spin could theoretically trigger dozens of reactions, and communicating with the server for each one would introduce lag and potential connection issues. By deciding the entire outcome at once, the game ensures a smooth, seamless experience for the player, while the core randomness is preserved in that initial, all-important moment. This brings us to the second, more fundamental question. How does the casino or game developer afford to pay for these potentially massive chain reaction wins, or for incredibly valuable features like free spins with multipliers? The answer lies in a concept central to modern slot design: the feature budget. Imagine the game's overall return to player, or RTP, is a pie. Let's say it's a 96% RTP pie. This means that over a massive number of spins, the game is designed to pay back 96% of all money wagered. But that 96% isn't distributed evenly across every single spin. Instead, the game designer slices up the pie. A large portion of that pie is allocated to the base game, the regular spins that don't trigger any special features. This might be, for example, 60% of the total 96% RTP. The wins here are typically smaller and more frequent, designed to keep the gameplay engaging. The remaining chunk of the pie, in this case 36% of the total RTP, is the feature budget. This portion is reserved exclusively for payouts that occur during bonus rounds, free spins, and other special events. This is why bonus rounds often feel so much more explosive and high potential than the base game, because mathematically they are. A disproportionate amount of the game's total payout potential is locked away, waiting to be unleashed when a player triggers that feature. Let's apply this to a free spins bonus. You might be playing a game where landing 3 scatter symbols awards 10 free spins. During these spins, perhaps a 3x multiplier is active on all wins. The cost of these free spins isn't actually free at all. It has been paid for by slightly reducing the payout percentage of the base game. Every spin you make in the base game contributes a tiny, theoretical fraction towards funding that eventual bonus round. When you finally trigger the feature, you are tapping into that reserved budget. The real strips used during the free spins might be different, with more high-paying symbols or wilds added. The RNG is still working, of course, generating a random outcome for each of the 10 free spins. But the mathematical landscape it's operating in has been intentionally altered. The potential for larger wins is higher because the game is now allowed to pay out from that massive chunk of RTP it had been holding in reserve. This creates a psychological loop of anticipation and reward. The base game builds tension, and the bonus feature provides the thrilling release. The technology simply provides the mathematical framework to make this emotional journey possible and, over the long run, profitable for the house. This same budgeting principle applies to nearly every feature you can imagine. Consider expanding wilds. A wild symbol might land on a reel, and then based on the RNG's result, it expands to cover the entire reel, turning it completely wild. The probability of that expansion happening, and the resulting payout, is all factored into the game's overall math. If the expanding wild is a very powerful feature, the game might compensate by having slightly lower paying regular symbols in the base game. Or think about sticky wilds, which are common in bonus rounds. A wild symbol lands and stays in place for several subsequent spins. The technology behind this is fascinating. The game's program has to remember the state of the reels from one spin to the next, holding that wild in place while the other reels respin. Each of those respins is another call to the RNG, but it's operating on a modified reel set that now includes a guaranteed wild. The potential for creating powerful winning lines increases with every spin, and the cost for this powerful advantage is, once again, drawn from that pre-allocated feature budget. Even something as simple as a win multiplier is a carefully calculated variable. When a game offers a random multiplier on a win, the RNG isn't just determining the symbols on the reels, it's also determining the multiplier value. The game's math model will have a weighted table for this. For example, a 2x multiplier might have a 50% chance of appearing, a 3x multiplier 25% chance, a 5x multiplier 15% chance, and a 10x multiplier 10% chance. These probabilities are not arbitrary. They are meticulously designed so that the average multiplier awarded over millions of spins conforms to the game's overall RTP. So when you see a complex slot machine with cascading reels, free spins, expanding wilds, and multipliers all working at once, you're not just seeing a game of chance. You're seeing a finely tuned economic simulation running in real time. Every feature, every symbol, every possible outcome has a price, and that price is carefully balanced against the game's target RTP. The technology's job is to execute this complex mathematical dance flawlessly, ensuring that every single spin, while completely random in its outcome, adheres to the long-term statistical model designed by its creators. It's a system that allows for moments of incredible excitement and large payouts, all while operating within a predictable and stable financial framework. But this raises a crucial question. If two different slot machines both have a 96% RTP, why can one feel like a slow, steady grind with frequent small wins, while the other feels like a roller coaster of long dry spells punctuated by massive heart-pounding jackpots? They are both designed to pay back the same percentage over time, yet the player experience is completely different. How do developers use the same underlying technology to build such radically different games? The answer is a concept just as important as RTP volatility. And understanding how that is programmed is key to understanding why you connect with some games and others not at all. Volatility is the pulse of the machine. It's the rhythm, the temperament, the personality of the game, while return to player or RTP tells you how much a game is designed to pay back over the long run. Volatility tells you how it's going to do it. Is it a slow, steady drip of small wins? Or is it a long, quiet drought followed by a sudden torrential downpour of a massive jackpot? That, in a nutshell, is the difference between low and high volatility. Imagine two different hiking trails up the same mountain. Both start at the same base elevation and end at the exact same peak. Their RTP is identical. You end up at the same height. But the journey is completely different. The first trail is a low volatility path. It's a long, winding series of gentle switchbacks. You're constantly making small, steady progress upwards. You get frequent, rewarding views, and your energy level stays relatively stable. You're almost always moving forward, even if it's just a little at a time. It's a predictable, less stressful, and longer experience. The second trail is the high volatility path. It starts with a long, flat walk through the woods. You walk for miles, seeing the same trees, not gaining any elevation. You might even go downhill for a bit, losing progress. You start to wonder if you're even on the right path. Then suddenly, the trail turns into a sheer rock face. You are scrambling, using all your energy, climbing straight up, gaining a massive amount of elevation in a very short, intense burst. The experience is thrilling, terrifying, and completely unpredictable. You spend most of your time feeling like you're going nowhere, all for the chance at that one exhilarating vertical climb. That is precisely how volatility is programmed into an online slot. It's not an accident. It's a deliberate mathematical design choice that dictates the entire feel of the game. And the central nervous system of this design is the game's pay table. A low volatility game is programmed with a pay table full of closely grouped, modest payouts. The top prize might be 250 or 500 times your stake. But crucially, the payouts for matching 3 or 4 of the lower tier symbols are frequent. The game is mathematically structured to trigger these smaller wins on a regular basis. The random number generator is still doing its job, spitting out millions of numbers a second, but a much larger percentage of those numbers are mapped to outcomes that result in a small win. The code is written to deliver a steady stream of rewards, keeping your balance from taking huge nosedives and extending your time on the machine. The goal of the design is session length and consistent engagement. Now, let's look under the hood of a high volatility machine. The pay table looks completely different. It's a game of extremes. The top-level symbols, the ones that trigger the jackpot, might pay out 5,000, 10,000, or even more times your stake. The potential reward is astronomical. But look closer. The payouts for the lower-tier symbols are often tiny, sometimes not even giving you your initial stake back. There is a massive mathematical chasm between the small wins and the colossal ones. The programming reflects this. The vast, overwhelming majority of numbers generated by the RNG will map to either a losing spin or one of these minuscule, less than your stake-back wins. The game is designed to be cold. It will eat through a balance quickly, but all those losing spins are mathematically necessary to fund the rare, but possible gigantic payout. The code reserves a huge portion of the game's overall RTP for these life-altering wins. A tiny, almost infinitesimal fraction of the RNG's possible outcomes are mapped to these mega jackpots. Playing a high-volatility game is a mathematical exercise in patience and risk. The developer is essentially telling the player, you will likely have many non-eventful spins, but we are holding the potential for an enormous win in reserve for the very few, very fortunate outcomes. This is why you might find yourself drawn to certain types of games. It's a reflection of your own appetite for risk. Do you prefer the steady entertainment of a low-volatility game, where your budget might last for an hour or two with lots of little celebratory sounds and animations? Or are you drawn to the lottery-style thrill of a high-volatility game, where you accept that you might lose your budget in 5 minutes, but you're really there for the small chance at a truly massive prize? Neither is better or worse. They are simply different mathematical models designed to appeal to different player psychologies. Of course, it's not just a binary choice between low and high. The vast majority of online slots actually exist in the middle, in what's known as medium volatility. These games are the jack of all trades. They are programmed to be a hybrid, a balance between the two extremes. Their pay tables offer the potential for significant wins, perhaps not the 10,000x jackpots, but substantial 1,000x or 1,500x prizes. At the same time, they are also coded to deliver a reasonable frequency of smaller, sustaining wins to keep the session going. It's the developer's attempt to capture the best of both worlds. Enough consistency to prevent players from getting immediately discouraged, but enough high-end potential to create moments of genuine excitement and anticipation. So when you see a game themed around a quest for ancient treasure, with symbols representing maps, jewels, and a legendary golden idol, the volatility is part of the story. A high-volatility design makes the hunt feel real. Long periods of searching followed by the rare, massive discovery. Conversely, a game filled with vibrant, sparkling gems and classic fruit symbols might be low volatility, designed to be a fast-paced, consistently rewarding, almost hypnotic experience. The math and the theme are woven together. The key takeaway is this: the feeling you get from a game, the frustration, the excitement, the rhythm of wins and losses is not a fluke. It's not just luck. It is the direct result of a calculated, mathematical blueprint. The developer has made a conscious decision about what kind of journey they want to offer you. They use the pay table and the mapping of the RNG's output to build that trail. Whether it's a gentle, winding path or a treacherous, sheer cliff face, both lead to the same theoretical peak of RTP over millions of spins, but the experience of the climb is worlds apart. This mathematical skeleton of RTP and volatility underpins every single spin. But modern slots are so much more than just spinning reels. They're filled with elaborate bonus rounds, free spins, cascading wins, and special wild symbols. How do these features, which feel so generous and spontaneous, fit into such a rigid mathematical framework? If a game is programmed to return exactly 96%, where does the money for 10 free spins actually come from? The answer lies in a concept called the funded feature, and it's one of the most clever illusions in game design. So when you trigger a bonus round, the game isn't suddenly feeling generous. It's not giving you something for nothing. It's cashing in a check that you and every other player have been paying for little by little on every single spin that didn't trigger the feature. Think of it like a holiday savings club. You put a small amount of money away with every paycheck, and it feels like a big free bonus when you get it all back in a lump sum at the end of the year. But it was your money all along, it was just allocated differently. In the world of slot machines, this is how the math works. Let's stick with our game that has a 96% return to player, or RTP. That 96% is the total, all-encompassing figure for the entire game experience. It is not 96% for the base game plus a bunch of free stuff on top. Instead, the game's designers have to split that 96% payout across the two main phases of the game. The base game, meaning your regular, paid-for spins, and the feature rounds like free spins. A game designer might decide to allocate, say 60% of the total return to the base game, and the remaining 36% to the free spins feature. This means that over millions of spins, for every $100 wagered, the base game is mathematically designed to pay back about $60. The free spins features, on the other hand, are designed to pay back $36. Together, they add up to the advertised $96, or 96% RTP. This is the fundamental illusion. The free spins aren't free at all. They are pre-funded by a slightly suppressed payout rate in the base game. The base game is intentionally designed to pay out less than the total RTP to save up value that can be released in a big, exciting burst during the bonus round. This is why you can go through long stretches of spins in the base game that feel cold, where you're only getting very small wins or no wins at all. The game isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. It's accumulating the mathematical value required to fund that spectacular, high payout bonus feature that everyone is chasing. The game's random number generator and its underlying math model know the exact probability of triggering the bonus. Let's imagine the odds of landing the 3 scatter symbols to trigger free spins are 1 in 120. The model also has a calculated average payout for that feature. Through millions of simulated rounds, the designers know that the free spins bonus will, on average, pay out 55 times the player's stake. With these two pieces of information, the probability of the trigger and the average payout of the feature, the cost of the feature can be precisely calculated and spread across all the other spins. It becomes just another symbol or combination on the pay table, albeit a very complex and exciting one. The cost of that 1 in 120 chance of winning, an average of 55 times your stake, is factored into the payout of every other possible combination, ensuring the total system remains perfectly balanced at 96% RTP. This design is, frankly, a work of psychological genius. It taps directly into how our brains perceive value and excitement. We are naturally more drawn to variable rewards. A steady, predictable drip of small wins is far less engaging than the potential for a sudden, life-changing windfall. The funded feature model creates a narrative within the game. The base game becomes the grind, the period of anticipation and building tension. The bonus round is the climax, the dramatic release of all that stored-up value. It transforms the experience from a simple series of independent spins into a quest. You're no longer just spinning to match symbols. You're spinning to unlock the real game, the bonus round where the perceived big money is. The phrase free spins itself is a masterclass in marketing. It frames the most valuable part of the game as a gift, a reward for your persistence, completely obscuring the fact that its value was methodically carved out of your preceding wagers. And this principle doesn't just apply to free spins. It applies to every feature you see in a modern online slot. Pick-and-click bonuses, where you select from a grid of hidden prizes. That's a funded feature. The game knows the average payout of that bonus, and it's factored into the RTP. A Wheel of Fortune-style bonus? Funded. Cascading reels with increasing multipliers? The additional value provided by those multipliers is meticulously calculated and funded by the base game. Expanding wilds, sticky wilds, mystery symbols. Every single mechanic that adds a layer of excitement is a precisely costed element within the game's overall mathematical budget. This is where the art of game design really comes into play. Developers can create vastly different feeling games simply by changing how they allocate that 96% RTP. A designer might create a game for players who prefer a longer, more consistent experience. They might allocate 80% of the RTP to the base game, and only 16% to a bonus feature that triggers frequently but offers more modest payouts. This game would feel busier, with lots of small, regular wins keeping the player's balance ticking over. It provides more time on device, but likely fewer heart-pounding, jackpot-sized moments. On the other end of the spectrum, a designer might target thrill seekers. They could create a game where only 30% of the RTP is allocated to the base game, with a whopping 66% funneled into an incredibly rare but monumentally high-paying bonus feature. Playing this game would feel completely different. The base game would be brutal with long periods of losses. It would eat through a player's balance quickly. But the tension and anticipation for the bonus feature would be immense, because everyone knows that triggering it has the potential for a massive screen-filling payout. Neither of these games is better or looser than the other. If they both have a 96% RTP, they are, over the long term, mathematically identical in their return to the player. But their personality, their feel is night and day. And the mechanism that allows for this incredible diversity in game experience is the funded feature. It's the engine that drives the modern slot machine, allowing designers to sculpt the emotional journey of the player by deciding where, when, and how they distribute the game's predefined payout. It's the reason why some games feel like a calm river cruise, and others feel like a treacherous climb up Mount Everest for that one spectacular view from the summit. This fundamental difference in game personality, this deliberate choice between frequent small wins and rare huge wins, is not just a design preference. It has a technical name, and it is arguably the single most important metric beyond RTP that a player should understand. It dictates the entire rhythm and risk profile of a game. So how do developers balance this equation? How do they decide whether to create a game that's a slow burn, or one that's an explosive firework? That all comes down to controlling a game's volatility, and it's where the math becomes a true art form. Volatility, in the simplest terms, is a measure of risk. It doesn't change the long-term RTP of the game, but it completely dictates the journey a player takes to get there. Think of it like weather. A low-volatility game is like a steady, light drizzle. You'll get wet consistently, but you're probably not going to get drenched in a single downpour. You can expect frequent, smaller wins that keep your balance ticking over. It extends your playtime, offering a longer, more predictable session of entertainment. A high-volatility game, on the other hand, is a thunderstorm on a hot summer day. Can be clear skies for a long, long time. Your balance might drop spin after spin with very little to show for it. But then, without warning, the clouds burst open and you get a torrential downpour. A massive, game-changing win that can be hundreds, or even thousands, of times your initial bet. This experience is more of a roller coaster. Long periods of anticipation punctuated by moments of extreme excitement. So, how do developers become masters of this digital meteorology? They have a set of levers they can pull, mathematical and design-based tools that allow them to precisely dial in a game's volatility from a gentle mist to a Category 5 hurricane. The first and most fundamental lever is the architecture of the pay table itself. The pay table is the game's menu of prizes. It tells you what each combination of symbols is worth. And by carefully structuring these payouts, a developer can completely change the feel of the game. In a low-volatility game, the pay table is relatively flat. The difference in payout between a 3-symbol combination and a 5-symbol combination of the same icon might not be that dramatic. For example, 3 cherries might pay 5 credits, 4 might pay 10, and 5 might pay 25. There are also lots of different winning combinations, many with low but respectable payouts. The entire structure is designed to return small amounts of money back to the player frequently, creating that steady drizzle effect. Now let's look at a high-volatility pay table. It's a completely different beast. It's steep, jagged, and top-heavy. The lower-tier wins for 3 or 4 symbols might be tiny, sometimes not even returning your original stake. But the top-tier prize, the 5-symbol combination of the jackpot icon, is astronomical. It's an absolute mountain compared to the foothills of the other payouts. While our low-volatility game's top prize was 25 credits, this game's top prize might be 10,000 credits. The vast majority of the game's total RTP is locked away inside these rare, massive wins. Playing this game is a hunt for that one specific combination, and the pay table is structured to make every other win feel insignificant by comparison. But the pay table is only half the story. A 10,000 credit prize doesn't mean anything if it never hits. This brings us to the second major lever of volatility control: symbol population on the virtual reels. As we discussed before, the reels in an online slot aren't physical strips. They are digital constructs that can have thousands of stops or positions. Developers decide exactly how many times each symbol appears on each reel. In our low-volatility game with the frequent cherry wins, the cherry symbol might be programmed to appear on 20 out of 1,000 stops on every single reel. This makes combinations of cherries relatively common. The math ensures that you'll see those small, satisfying wins on a regular basis. In our high-volatility game, that 10,000 credit diamond symbol might be programmed to appear only once on each of the 5 virtual reels, each of which could have over 4,000 stops. The probability of lining up all 5 is infinitesimally small, but it's still a defined, calculable probability. By controlling the scarcity of the high-paying symbols and the abundance of the low-paying or non-paying blank spaces, developers can fine-tune the frequency of every single possible outcome, thereby directly manipulating the game's volatility. They can make the thunderstorm a once-in-a-session event, or a once-in-a-million spins event. The third, and perhaps most exciting lever in the modern era, is the design of bonus features. This is where the artistry really shines through, and where volatility can be cranked up to extreme levels. A simple low-volatility game might have a basic pick-a-prize bonus. You land 3 bonus symbols, you're taken to a new screen, you pick one of 3 chests, and you win a prize of 5, 10, or 20 times your bet. It's a nice little break from the main game. It happens fairly often, but the outcome is predictable and contained. It contributes to the RTP without creating a massive swing in your balance. High volatility bonus features are a different universe. The most common example is the free spins round with a win multiplier. You might trigger 10 free spins where every single win is tripled. Suddenly, that already top-heavy pay table becomes explosive. That 10,000 credit jackpot? It's now a 30,000 credit grand prize. The potential for a massive payout skyrockets during this feature, and the entire base game becomes a tense waiting period for it to trigger. Developers can push this even further. They can add retriggers, where you can win more free spins during the bonus round itself. They can add cascading reels, where winning symbols disappear and new ones fall into place, potentially creating chain reactions of wins from a single spin. They can introduce expanding wilds, where a single wild symbol can cover an entire reel, drastically increasing the chances of a huge payout. Each of these features is a volatility modifier, a feature that can chain together multiple wins, apply a multiplier, and then retrigger itself creates an environment of controlled chaos. The potential outcome is no longer a simple prize from the pay table. It's a complex calculation of multiple mechanics interacting with each other. A single spin that costs $1 could, through a lucky chain of events in a bonus feature, result in a win of thousands of dollars. This is the very essence of high volatility, the potential for a disproportionately large outcome from a single event. Ultimately, the choice of volatility is a design decision based on the target audience. Some players prefer the relaxing, extended entertainment of a low volatility game. They're not necessarily chasing a giant jackpot. They're enjoying the process, the animations, and the feeling of frequent wins. Other players are thrill seekers. They understand that they might lose their budget quickly, but they are drawn by the tantalizing possibility, however remote, of that one incredible spin that changes everything. They are chasing the thunderstorm. By masterfully pulling these three levers, pay table architecture, symbol distribution, and bonus feature mechanics, developers can craft precisely the experience they want to deliver. They can build a game that pays out like a dripping faucet or one that pays out like a breaking dam, all while ensuring that over the long run, the game adheres to its predefined RTP. It's a delicate balance of probability, psychology, and creative design. So we have the math for the payout, the RTP, and the art for the experience, the volatility. This creates a complete blueprint for a digital slot machine. But a blueprint is just a plan. Who checks the final construction? In an industry built on digital code and complex algorithms, who acts as the referee? Who holds the developers accountable and ensures that the code behind the curtain is actually playing by the rules? The answer to that question isn't a single person, but an entire specialized industry of digital watchdogs. Think of them as the building inspectors of the code, the independent auditors of the algorithm. These are third-party testing agencies, and their entire existence is predicated on one thing: trust. Companies like eCogra, which stands for E-commerce Online Gaming Regulation and Assurance, or GLI Gaming Laboratories International, are the unsung heroes in this story. They are the referees, the neutral arbiters who step in between the game developer and the player to ensure a fair contest. So, how exactly do they do it? How do they peer into the soul of a digital machine and verify its integrity? The process is multi-layered, incredibly detailed, and frankly fascinating. It all starts with the heart of the machine, the random number generator. The auditors don't just ask the developer, "Is your RNG random?" They subject it to a brutal series of statistical tests. They'll run the RNG through millions, sometimes billions of cycles. They're looking for patterns, for predictability, for any hint of bias. Imagine you were tasked with verifying if a coin was fair. You wouldn't just flip it 10 times. You'd flip it 1,000,000 times. You'd expect it to come up heads roughly 500,000 times and tails roughly 500,000 times. But you'd also analyze the sequence of flips. Are there weirdly long streaks of heads? Does a tail seem to appear more often after 3 heads in a row? The auditors do the digital equivalent of this, but on a scale and with a mathematical rigor that is almost impossible to comprehend. They use a battery of standardized tests like the die-hard tests, a suite of statistical examinations for measuring the quality of a random number generator. They check for uniformity, ensuring all numbers have an equal chance of being selected. They check for independence, making sure the previous number has zero influence on the next. Only when the RNG passes this gauntlet of tests can it be certified as truly statistically random. But the RNG is just step 1. Next up is the game itself. The auditors need to verify that the game's advertised return to player, or RTP, is accurate. This isn't a simple guess. The testing lab gets access to the game's complete mathematical blueprint, the par sheet we discussed earlier. They analyze this document, which details every symbol, every reel, every pay line, and every possible outcome. Their own mathematicians then build a model to calculate the theoretical RTP, based on the developer's own design. Then they test it. They run a simulation of the game, playing not thousands, not millions, but often billions of spins. This is a brute force approach to verification. They let the game run in a simulated environment at super speed, recording the outcome of every single spin. After this colossal number of plays, they compare the actual simulated payout percentage to the theoretical RTP calculated from the par sheet. If the developer claims a 96% RTP, and the simulation over billions of spins comes out to 95.98%, it's likely to pass. But if it comes out to 94%, a red flag is raised. An investigation begins. The game will not be certified until that discrepancy is found and fixed. This process also verifies the volatility. It confirms that a game designed to be low volatility actually pays out small wins frequently, and a high volatility game pays out large wins infrequently, just as the math says it should. Perhaps the most critical part of the audit is the source code review. This is where the inspectors truly go behind the curtain. They are given the game's raw source code, the very DNA of the program. A team of software engineers, cybersecurity experts, and mathematicians will meticulously comb through thousands upon thousands of lines of code. They are looking for anything that shouldn't be there. They're hunting for hidden routines, backdoors, or malicious logic. Is there a piece of code that says, if a player has won more than X dollars in the last 10 minutes, reduce their odds? That would be found. Is there a vulnerability that could be exploited by a player or an external hacker? They are trained to spot it. Can an operator flip a switch to change the game's payout behavior on the fly? The source code review is designed to prevent that. This deep dive ensures the game that was mathematically designed and simulated is the exact same game that gets deployed to the casino. There can be no hidden clauses, no secret algorithms. The code must be clean, secure, and transparently aligned with the game's stated rules and mathematical model. Finally, there's the layer of jurisdictional compliance. This is where the rulebook of the real world meets the logic of the digital one. A testing lab doesn't just certify a game as fair in a general sense. They certify it for operation within a specific legal jurisdiction, like New Jersey or Pennsylvania, or the United Kingdom. Each of these jurisdictions has its own highly specific and often unique set of technical standards. For example, one jurisdiction might mandate that a game must display a clear clock on the screen at all times. Another might require that the game's rules and pay table must be accessible within a maximum of 2 clicks. Some have strict rules about the maximum allowable bet size or the speed at which reels can spin, designed to prevent excessively rapid play. The auditors check the game against a massive checklist of these regulations. They ensure that every single rule, no matter how small, is followed to the letter. A game might be perfectly fair and random, but if it doesn't meet these specific compliance standards, it will not be approved for that market. Once a game has passed every single one of these stages, the RNG test, the RTP simulation, the source code review, and the jurisdictional compliance check, it receives a certificate. This certificate is the game's passport. Without it, a licensed online casino cannot legally offer the game to its players. This is why you'll often see the logos of testing agencies like GLI or eCogra at the bottom of a regulated casino's website. It's not just a fancy graphic, it's a declaration. It's their way of saying, the games you see here are not a black box. They have been independently dismantled, inspected, and verified by one of the world's most trusted authorities. And the oversight doesn't stop there. This isn't a one-and-done process. Regulated markets require ongoing monitoring. Casinos must regularly submit data on the actual performance of their games. The regulators and auditors compare the real-world payout percentages, collected from millions of plays by actual customers, against the certified theoretical RTP. If a game certified at 96% suddenly starts paying out at 92% over a sustained period, it triggers an alarm. It could be a technical glitch, a software bug from a recent update, or something more serious. Whatever the cause, it gets investigated. This continuous monitoring ensures that the game that was certified remains the game that is being played, month after month, year after year. This entire complex ecosystem of testing, certification, and ongoing regulation is the invisible framework that underpins the legitimate online gaming industry. It's what separates a regulated, licensed operator from a shady, offshore website running on unverifiable software. It's the answer to the question of who checks the construction. It's the system of accountability that ensures the math and the code are one and the same. So we have fair math and independent referees. The system is, by all accounts, robust. But this only covers the what and the how of the machine. It doesn't explain the why. Why do we play? How do developers leverage sound, color, and timing to create an experience that keeps us engaged, even when we know the odds are structured against us? What are the psychological mechanics working in tandem with the mathematical ones? The answer lies in a field where cold, hard mathematics meets the warm, messy, and often irrational world of human psychology. It's a carefully constructed symphony of sensory input, designed to engage the brain's most primitive reward pathways. This isn't an accident. It's a science. The entire experience of playing an online slot is built around what game designers call a compulsion loop. It's a simple repeating cycle. You take an action, you receive feedback and a potential reward, and that reward, or the anticipation of it, motivates you to take the next action. Spin, see the result, spin again. The goal of the developer is to make that loop as compelling and frictionless as possible. And they do it by targeting your senses. Let's start with sound. The audio landscape of a slot machine is not just background noise. It's a functional part of the design. Think about the sounds. The ambient music is often unobtrusive, even hypnotic, designed to lull you into a state of relaxed focus. But the moment you press spin, the audio changes. You hear the satisfying click or swoosh of the reels, an auditory confirmation of your action. Then the tension builds. As the reels land one by one, thunk thunk, the sound design creates a moment of pure anticipation. And when you win, the machine explodes in a cascade of positive audio reinforcement. It's a triumphant crescendo of music, jingles, and the deeply satisfying, almost primal sound of coins clattering and pouring out. This sound is a digital echo of the physical payout from old-school machines, a sound that has been associated with winning for over a century. Our brains are hardwired to recognize this as a positive outcome. But notice what happens when you lose. Silence. Or perhaps a subtle low-frequency thud. The contrast is stark and intentional. Wins are loud, celebratory, and stimulating. Losses are quiet and forgettable. This auditory imbalance constantly reinforces the positive feelings of winning, while minimizing the negative feedback of losing, encouraging you to spin again to get back to that celebratory soundscape. Then there's the visual assault. The colors are never drab or muted. They are vibrant, saturated, and often themed around exciting concepts like adventure, mythology, or luxury. Flashing lights, sparkling animations, and exploding symbols all serve the same purpose as the winning sounds: to flood your brain's reward center. When you hit a winning combination, the screen doesn't just show you the amount, it celebrates with you. The winning symbols might animate, the pay line lights up, and a shower of virtual gold coins might rain down the screen. This is what designers call juice, the extra layer of sensory feedback that makes an action feel satisfying. It's the difference between a static you win message and a full-blown visual and auditory party. This celebration doesn't just signal a win, it amplifies it, making even a small payout feel like a significant event. This sensory feedback works in concert with the core mathematical principle we've discussed before, the variable ratio reinforcement schedule. This is the formal term for the unpredictable nature of the rewards. In behavioral psychology, it's recognized as the most powerful schedule for compelling repeated behavior. It's the same mechanism that makes checking your email or social media so addictive. You never know when you'll get a rewarding message or a like, so you keep checking. A slot machine is a perfect high-speed embodiment of this principle. The brain gets a hit of dopamine not just from the win itself, but from the anticipation of a potential win. The uncertainty is the key. Every spin is a new roll of the dice, a new possibility for that big, rewarding sensory explosion. Developers masterfully manipulate this anticipation through timing and pacing. Have you ever noticed that slight pause before the final reel locks into place? Especially when the first few reels are showing a promising combination. That's not lag. That's a deliberate design choice. It's a dramatic pause that stretches the moment of anticipation to its absolute peak. Your brain is held in suspense, heart rate slightly elevated, waiting for the resolution. When the final symbol lands and it's a near miss, the feeling of almost getting it can be even more powerful in motivating the next spin than an actual small win. The brain interprets a near miss as progress, thinking, "I'm so close, the next one could be it." even though, as we know, the RNG makes each spin an independent event. Perhaps the most ingenious psychological mechanic is something called losses disguised as wins, or LDWs. This is a phenomenon unique to the multi-line video slot. Let's say you bet $1, covering 20 pay lines at 5 cents each. You spin the reels, lights flash, bells ring, and the machine celebrates a win of 50 cents. Your brain registers the positive sensory feedback, the sounds, the lights, the "you win" message. But you bet $1 and only got 50 cents back. You actually had a net loss of 50 cents on that spin. The machine, however, has framed this event as a victory. Over time, these LDWs can have a profound psychological effect. They break up the monotony of losing and create a much higher frequency of winning experiences, masking the overall rate at which a player's balance is actually decreasing. You feel like you're winning or breaking even far more often than you are, which keeps you in the game longer. All of these elements, the sound, the visuals, the timing, the variable rewards, the losses disguised as wins, are designed to foster two more psychological states: the illusion of control and the flow state. The illusion of control comes from features that give you a sense of agency, being able to choose your bet amount, select which pay lines to activate, or even a button to stop the reels mid-spin. While these actions have no bearing on the RNG-determined outcome, they create a feeling of participation and skill. You feel like you're playing the game, not just activating a random number generator. This perceived control makes the experience more engaging and personal. When all of these mechanics work together perfectly, they can induce what psychologists call a flow state, often referred to as being in the zone. This is a state of deep immersion in an activity. The rhythmic, repetitive nature of spinning the reels, the constant sensory feedback, and the clear, simple goal can make the outside world fade away. Time can seem to warp, and an hour can feel like minutes. For the developer, a player in a flow state is the ultimate goal. A fully engaged user, immersed in the world they've created. So, when we look at an online slot machine, we're not just looking at a piece of code governed by an RNG. We are looking at a sophisticated piece of psychological engineering. The math provides the frame, the probabilities, and the long-term house edge. But the psychology is the paint, the texture, and the music. It's what transforms a simple wagering game into a compelling, immersive, and endlessly looping experience. The mathematical model ensures the operator's viability, but the psychological model is what ensures the player's engagement. The two are inseparable, working in perfect, calculated harmony. This raises some profound questions as we look toward the future. As technology becomes even more sophisticated, how will these psychological tools evolve? What happens when artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and personalized algorithms are integrated more deeply into slot design? And as we gain a clearer understanding of how this technology interacts with our brain's wiring, what are the ethical responsibilities of the designers, the operators, and the regulators who oversee this multi-billion-dollar industry? These are not just theoretical questions. They are the central conflict at the heart of the next evolution of digital entertainment. The future of online slots isn't simply about better graphics or more inventive bonus rounds. It's about a deeper, more intricate fusion of technology and human psychology, a frontier where artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and big data are converging to create experiences that are more personalized, more immersive, and potentially more potent than anything we have ever seen before. At the forefront of this evolution is artificial intelligence. The random number generator, for all its mathematical purity, is a passive system. It generates outcomes, but it doesn't learn. AI, on the other hand, is a learning system. Imagine a slot game that doesn't just present you with a fixed set of odds, but actively learns your playing style. It might notice you tend to stop playing after a big win, or that you chase losses after a series of near misses. It could learn what themes you prefer, what sound effects keep you engaged, and precisely what level of volatility provides you with the most compelling experience. This leads to the concept of dynamic game balancing, or what some call adaptive RTP, return to player. In theory, an AI could adjust the game's parameters in real time, not to cheat, but to optimize the player's session for maximum engagement. If the AI detects you're getting frustrated, it might subtly increase the frequency of small wins to keep your spirits up. If it senses you're getting bored, it might trigger a more elaborate bonus feature. The goal isn't necessarily to take your money faster, but to keep you in the seat longer, to make the experience so perfectly tailored to your psychological profile that leaving feels like walking out in the middle of your favorite movie. This creates a powerful feedback loop, where the machine is constantly learning from you, and you are constantly being stimulated by the machine. The ethical line here becomes incredibly blurry. Is this just sophisticated customer service, giving the player the entertainment they crave? Or is it a form of digital predation, using a player's own cognitive biases against them with frightening efficiency? Now let's take this a step further and pull the experience off the flat screen and into a three-dimensional world with virtual and augmented reality. The first wave of online casinos simply replicated the look of a physical casino on a website. The next wave will put you inside it. Picture this: you put on a VR headset and you're no longer in your living room. You're standing in a dazzling, futuristic casino that defies the laws of physics. The slot machine in front of you isn't a 2D graphic. It's a towering, intricate contraption of gears and light. When you hit a bonus round, the world around you transforms. You might be whisked away on a dragon's back to a treasure-filled cave, or dive deep into the ocean to open sunken chests. The sensory feedback, the sounds, the sights, the feeling of presence, is magnified 1,000 times. This level of immersion has profound psychological implications. One of the key factors in responsible gaming is maintaining a sense of reality, an awareness of the time and money being spent. VR is, by its very nature, designed to suspend that reality. In a fully immersive virtual casino, the cues of the outside world, the clock on the wall, the changing light from a window disappear. Money might be represented not as dollars and cents, but as glowing crystals or gold coins, further abstracting the financial transaction. The experience becomes less like playing a game on a computer and more like entering a separate reality, one specifically engineered for maximum stimulation. The potential for escapism is immense, but so is the potential for losing track of the real-world consequences. And what about the technology of value itself? The rise of blockchain and cryptocurrencies introduces another paradigm shift. For years, one of the biggest challenges for online gaming has been trust. How do you truly know the game is fair? The concept of provably fair gaming attempts to solve this using cryptographic hashes. Essentially, the operator can prove that the outcome of a spin was determined before the bet was placed and was not tampered with. This offers a new level of transparency. Furthermore, non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, could transform in-game assets. Imagine winning a unique, one-of-a-kind digital trophy or a rare slot machine skin that is verifiably yours on the blockchain, which you could then display, trade, or sell. This adds a layer of collectability and real-world value to the gaming experience, blurring the lines between entertainment and investment. But perhaps the most significant impact of slot machine technology isn't what it's doing to the future of casinos, but what it's doing to the rest of our digital lives. The principles we've discussed throughout this series, the variable reward schedules, the illusion of control, the potent feedback loops, have broken containment. They are the engine behind the attention economy. Think about your social media feed. You scroll and you don't know what you'll find next. It could be a boring ad, a message from a friend, or a viral video that makes you laugh. You pull to refresh, just like pulling a slot lever, waiting for that little dopamine hit of a new notification, a like, or a comment. That is a variable reward schedule. Think about mobile games with their loot boxes. You pay a small amount for a chance to get a rare, powerful item. That's a digital slot machine, wrapped in a different skin. Even productivity and fitness apps use these techniques. They reward you with badges, streaks, and points for completing tasks, gamifying your life and hooking you into a cycle of continuous engagement. The psychological architecture of the slot machine is now everywhere. It's in the way we shop, the way we learn, the way we connect with each other. We are all, in a sense, pulling levers all day long on the screens in our pockets, waiting for a small, unpredictable reward. This brings us back to the core responsibility. As these technologies become more powerful and more pervasive, the onus falls on designers and regulators to build a safer, more transparent digital world. For game developers, this means embracing ethical design. It means giving players more control and more information. Imagine a slot game that included a clear, real-time dashboard showing exactly how much time and money you've spent. Imagine built-in tools that allow players to easily set strict limits, not buried in 3 layers of menus, but right on the main screen. Imagine AI being used not just to maximize engagement, but to detect patterns of harmful play and proactively offer resources or initiate a cooldown period. This is not a technological limitation. It is a choice of priority. For regulators, the challenge is keeping pace with an industry that moves at the speed of light. The old rules, written for physical casinos in specific geographic locations, are often inadequate for a borderless digital world. The new battlegrounds are about data privacy. What information are these learning AIs collecting about you? And about algorithmic transparency. Should companies be required to disclose how their personalization algorithms work? How do you regulate an experience inside a virtual reality world? These are the complex, thorny issues that will define the next decade of digital policy. So, we've journeyed from the simple mechanics of the Liberty Bell to the complex algorithms of the digital age. We've seen how a machine of gears and springs evolved into a sophisticated piece of software that interfaces directly with the reward pathways of the human brain. The story of the slot machine is more than just a story about gambling. It's a story about technology, psychology, and the relentless pursuit of human attention. The very same principles that make the real spin are now shaping our digital society. And as we stand on the cusp of even more powerful immersive technologies, the question we must all ask ourselves is not simply, how does this machine work? But, how do we want it to work on us? The code is still being written, and the ultimate jackpot, a healthy, balanced relationship with our own technology, is still very much in play.